There was a concept going back to Greece that slavery permitted the individual to have the leisure and time to be an active citizen. That would mean walk 20 miles into Athens and get into the ecclesia or the assembly place out on the Pnyx and actually vote, and then walk back and serve maybe the next day on a jury, next day go to a comedy of Aristophanes, the next day go to a play to Aeschylus, while somebody was making shoes or making pots in your little shop. Whether that's true or not, scholars disagree, but there does seem to be some idea, and this carried into the Confederacy, that constitutional government was time-consuming and it required refinement and thinking, and therefore the more brutal and muscular arts should be devoted to slavery. I want to say another thing about race and citizenship. While this is going on in the southern Mediterranean, this idea of citizenship, and it is a rejection of the monumental civilizations in the Near East and in Crete and in Egypt, in the sense that they were top down and this is broad and middle class. What's going on in so-called white Northern Europe, places that we now call Germany or France or Belgium or Scandinavia? In the ancient world, they were Germania or Gaul or Hispania. And the answer is not much. They were tribal, much like the American West, and in the pre-Columbian periods, where very few people, maybe 1 or 2 per 100 square miles, tribal groups of the Huns, the Goths, the Ostrogoths, the Vandals. They had no settled cities, no settled agriculture, very primitive. And Mediterranean peoples then equated these white tribes, blue-eyed, blonde hair, with savagery. It's quite ironic when people today allege that citizenship is the equivalent of race. It never has been. And so as this evolutionary process grew, it started to be protected throughout the Mediterranean by Rome. And Rome had a great selling point, even during the imperial times. If they went into North Africa or modern-day Iraq or Germany or Poland, they would tell a conquered people, now you have habeas corpus, or you have a right to know what the charges are against you, and you'll be tried by a Roman magistrate. If you pay taxes to us, you will be told in your local council where the money goes for. If you're a Roman soldier, you have certain rights and responsibilities. And in addition to that, because citizenship and Roman government requires an advanced and materially prosperous citizenry, we will bring water to you on aqueducts, we will take waste out of the city, we will pave your roads with stone, and you'll have a culture that you did not have in tribal times that is both materially advanced, culturally sophisticated, but more importantly, it'll have laws and legal codes that will protect you regardless of your social standing or your income. That was a radical idea, and explains why Rome, by the 3rd century, controlled about 70 million people and about 1 million citizens. But remember what we talked about earlier, there were inherent contradictions in citizenship. The wealthier Rome became as it had a global economy, and the Mediterranean became a highway from Asia to Africa to Europe, and created bounty and good trade, cheaper prices. People became more affluent. And the more they became affluent, they became more leisured. And the more different peoples that you brought into the empire, the harder it was to integrate them, assimilate them, intermarry them with a common idea of Romanality. By the 5th century AD, the Romans' idea of citizenship started to break down. The elites no longer felt they had to invest in it. If you were a soldier on the Danube or the Rhine on the borders of Germany, maybe you spoke more German than you did Latin. Maybe you married a German wife. Maybe you didn't assimilate. Maybe when somebody said, you got to go all the way over to North Africa to protect us, you said, I'm not leaving. But there was localism and tribalism reasserting themselves. And the result is that, at least in the West, Western Europe, citizenship was lost. It survived in the East and under Byzantium for another 1,000 years, but only in pockets did it pop up again. Elements of the Magna Carta in Britain, Florentine republics. During the Renaissance and Enlightenment, citizenship started returning to Europe, and you can make the argument by the 19th century we had constitutional republics again. And today, the great bulwark of citizenship is the economic powerhouse of the United States and North America in general, especially Canada and the United States.